I never expected to fall for a struggling college girl on my daughter's blind date. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air crackled with unspoken tension as I walked into that little cafe on the corner. It smelled like burnt coffee and sweet pastries, but something deeper lingered. Was it fear? Or was it hope? My heart raced. My daughter had insisted on this date, pushing her enthusiasm on me like a heavy blanket. "Dad, you'll love her," she said with that bright smile of hers. I wanted to believe her. As I scanned the room, I spotted her. She sat alone, head down, fingers tracing the rim of her cup. Her hair was a wild mess of curls, and the spark in her eyes was dimmed. The sparkling jewelry that hugged her neck echoed her struggles, and you could see the weariness etched into her skin. I felt a pull, a force I couldn't understand. No one at that table noticed her. No one seemed to care. My heart ached at the sight. Who was she? I wanted to know everything. My mind raced with questions. Was she in debt? Was college just another struggle in her chaotic life? The sort of questions that dug a tight knot in my chest. And then, she looked up and met my gaze. A moment stretched into eternity. There was something raw in her expression. Pain? Defiance? I couldn't tell. My breath caught. The barista yelled out orders, laughter punctuated the air, but all I could hear was the bass of my heart drumming in my ears, drowning everything else out. I felt compelled to approach, yet my feet felt glued to the floor. What would I say? Suddenly, I remembered the rain outside. Heavy droplets pelted the windows, a furious storm that mirrored my emotions. I was trapped in a cyclone of uncertainty. If my daughter fell for her, how would this change everything? I approached the table, trembling hands gripping the back of a chair. She didn't shy away. She greeted me with a hesitant smile that sent my heart into a chaos of confusion. This girl, she was different. There was a haunting mystery swirling around her that I couldn't ignore. Just then, my daughter arrived, and the atmosphere shifted. Her bright energy contrasted sharply with the girl's subdued spirit. The girl stiffened, eyes darting between us. I could feel the questions forming on the tip of my tongue, but they'd die away as laughter erupted between the two. Still, the air held that electric heaviness, that promise of secrets yet to be revealed. I felt torn, two worlds colliding, two lives weaving in an invisible tapestry that threatened to unravel. Time raced by, conversations faded into the background as I focused on her. Each subtle gesture, each flicker of her eyes spoke volumes. Yet still, there was a barrier between us, a wall built on unspoken fears. And then, in a moment that resonated like a distant thunderclap, she excused herself. The silence roared. My daughter looked at me, confusion dancing in her eyes. "Dad, what do you think?" I knew I had to answer, but my mind swirled with unanswered questions. Why did that girl leave so suddenly? What was lurking in her heart? And why did I feel an unexpected urgency to protect her? I could sense that something wasn't right. My voice faltered. "I don't know, sweetie," and just like that, the door swung shut behind her, leaving me with a hollow cavern of uncertainty. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The rain had transformed into an oppressive gray mist, shrouding the city in a veil of melancholy as I stepped outside the cafe. The streets glistened with puddles reflecting the dull, overcast sky. I felt an urgency to find her, to understand the story behind those haunted eyes that had briefly captured me. My heart raced as I glanced around, searching for any sign of the girl who had pulled me into a labyrinth of emotions I had never expected to face. My phone buzzed with a reminder of my responsibilities, pulling me back to reality. I cursed under my breath, feeling the weight of the world pressing down on my shoulders. I had a job to keep, a daughter to care for, and yet here I was, spiraling into this chaos of unexpected feelings. For a moment, everything blurred as I imagined the myriad of circumstances that could have led her to that table. Did she carry the weight of family expectations? Was she battling her financial situation alone, trying to juggle classes and bills, perhaps even fighting a personal war I couldn't begin to fathom? Dad! My daughter's voice broke through my thoughts, sharp and worried. She stood at the entrance of the cafe, eyes wide, her breath forming small clouds in the chilly air. You just left the table. What did she say? Is everything okay? I struggled to find the words. Half of me longed to be honest, to share the depth of my turmoil over this girl I barely knew, while the other half was overwhelmed with guilt and confusion. Sweetheart, I am not sure what happened. She's not your type, you know? She crossed her arms, a hint of defiance in her voice. You wanted me to find someone special. I thought you'd like her, and just like that, I felt the ground beneath me shift. Had I inadvertently placed my daughter in a role that looked like a mediator between two worlds? Was this blind date merely a route to navigate emotions I never wanted to confront? I took a deep breath. I think she's special, but there's something deeper, something I can't quite explain. Before I could finish, my phone buzzed again, another notification that distracted me. A message from an unknown number. My heart raced. Without hesitation, I opened it. You should take your daughter's advice and leave her alone. My stomach sank as chills prickled my skin. Who sent this? The urgency that had assailed me earlier transformed into a gnawing fear. What is it? My daughter asked, peeking at the screen. It's nothing. I tucked the phone away, but the dread continued to bubble inside me. I needed answers, not just for me, but for her, for the girl who had unknowingly crossed a line that now blurred the boundaries of my life. Can we wait a minute? I asked, looking back toward the cafe. Maybe she'll return. The words stumbled out, caught between a million thoughts. I want to know if she's alright. At that moment, a figure emerged from the mist. It was her. My heart swelled with a mix of hope and trepidation as she hesitated at the edge of the entrance, swirling tendrils of uncertainty curling around her. Her expression mirrored my own confusion, yet behind those eyes was a flicker, a spark that begged to be seen, to be understood. Are you okay? I called out, my voice trembling, reverberating with an intensity one didn't expect. No one else heard it but her. She paused, her breath hitching in her throat. I didn't know if I should come back. Her eyes glistened, shadows mingling with the light, painting a vivid picture of her turmoil. My daughter stood beside me, sensing the palpable connection thrumming between us. You should sit with us. I want to know you, she said, her voice earnest and clear. The girl hesitated, vulnerability dancing behind her eyes. I can't. I shouldn't. Her words were not just a rejection. They echoed something deeper: fear, shame, an inability to accept love or kindness. As she began to turn away, something in me snapped, something about her expression fueled by my own regrets. Please, I said, voice soft yet unyielding. You're not alone. Let us in, just for a moment. And as the tension hung thick in the air, her breath wavered, her walls trembling just enough for me to glimpse the cracks. It was my last beat, a challenge to the storm brewing inside both of us. Just then, I heard the unmistakable sound of a distant siren, a reminder of realities we both might be escaping from. I watched her turn, confusion clashing with desperation. Why do you care? She whispered, tears pooling in those bright hazel eyes, the storm inside her finally breaking free. In that split second, everything hung in the balance, the world fading away, the cafe, the rain, my daughter. But before I could respond, a loud crack of thunder echoed through the air, reminding us of the tempest outside and the unresolved turmoil within. And then, with that single flicker of vulnerability, she turned, stepping back into the swirling mist, leaving me with a heart full of questions and a looming dread that felt as cold as the looming storm. The mist thickened as I stood on the threshold of the cafe, the weight of unspoken words pressing heavily upon my chest. I searched the swirling gray for any sign of her, the girl who had unknowingly breached my carefully constructed walls. Each minute stretched interminably as I felt my daughter's confused gaze boring into me. "Dad, you have to say something," she urged, her voice a mix of impatience and concern. "I just don't know what to say," I admitted, feeling the familiar tides of inadequacy rise within me. I looked at my daughter, her innocence cut through by an edge of worry. "It's complicated." "Complicated how?" she pressed, folding her arms tighter as if to shield herself from the storm around us. I swallowed hard. "Sometimes it's not just about the person in front of you. It's everything they carry. I feel like I've seen a glimpse of her battles, and it terrifies me." "What do you mean, battles?" she asked, her brows knitting together, still not grasping the depth of this cruelly woven narrative we found ourselves part of. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed relentlessly again, making my heart skip. I glanced down. Another message from the unknown number flashed on the screen. "You're making a mistake. Leave her alone, before it's too late." The words were a jolt, sharp and electrifying. Did someone know something about her? I could feel the oppressive fog of that initial encounter pressing heavily on my mind, threatening to derail me further. I felt trapped between wanting to protect her and the gnawing worry that maybe that was the wrong instinct altogether. "Let's just go," I urged, ready to escape the dark shadow that enveloped this encounter like a thief in the night. But my daughter's voice pierced through. "What if she needs help?" Her brow was furrowed. "What if she's in trouble?" The thought dug deeper, and I glanced toward the street, an unfamiliar impulse bubbling up inside me. "Fine. Let's wait just a little longer." Moments turned into what felt like hours, the tension taut as a wire. That feeling of dread wrapped around me like a suffocating cocoon. But just as I began to lose hope, I saw her again, slowly emerging from the depths of the mist. This time, she wasn't alone. Another figure walked alongside her, a tall young man with a confident demeanor, his arm nonchalantly slung around her shoulder. The sight was a slap in the face, both unexpected and unwelcome. "What's happening?" My voice was barely a whisper, disbelief thrumming through my words. "I don't know," my daughter murmured, eyes wide as she followed my gaze, her innocence quickly dissipating. As she drew closer, the young man's laughter rang out, vibrant and carefree, contrasting sharply with the cloud that had recently cloaked her. I suddenly felt a seismic shift in my resolve. Was this the person my daughter had warned me against? A gregarious, laughing companion contrasted against the fragile girl I'd glimpsed just moments before. What if he's the one who sent those messages? I said, my voice betraying the fear clawing at my throat. "What do you mean?" she asked, confusion mingling with urgency. I need to know if she's okay," I replied, my heart racing. But now, how can I even approach her? As I stood frozen, a wave of desperation rolled over me, a mother hen instinct to pounce into the fray. I thought again of my daughter, and what she must be thinking of this tangled fate I was weaving. Was I really prepared to confront the reality of what I was feeling? The connection I sensed just moments before felt fragile now, hanging by a thread. But then another sound pierced the air, one that sent icy tendrils of fear down my spiny-raised voice, low but sharp, filled with the tension of an argument. I strained to catch the words. "I told you I'm fine. Just leave me alone," she said, brushing the young man's arm away with a fierce determination. There was a crack in her voice that echoed deep within me, a call for help. "See?" I said urgently to my daughter, my heart racing. "She needs us." Before she could respond, I made a choice, one that felt both instinctual and reckless. "Wait here," I instructed, barely waiting for a reply before marching forward. Each step felt heavy, charged with uncertainty. "Hey," I called, my voice wavering slightly. "Are you all right?" The argument hushed, both sets of eyes turning to me in surprise. The girl looked startled, while the young man's expression flickered, clouded by annoyance and something more protective. "Who's this?" he asked, cocking an eyebrow at me. "Just someone who saw you too and was concerned," I replied, trying to sound steadier than I felt. "Concerned about what?" The sarcasm was thick on his tongue, an unwanted barrier between me and the girl I felt drawn to. The girl stepped away from him, her gaze locked onto mine, desperation swirling like a storm beneath the gentle surface of her eyes. "I'm fine, really." Just what?" You need to stop lying to me, he snapped, stepping forward, protective yet forceful. Stop it! She cried, the mounting tension spilling over. You don't own me. Or my decisions. My heart ached with empathy, and for a moment I felt her storm echo my own. But before I could react, the young man pushed forward, blocking my line of sight, tension crackling in the air. I think it's best if you just walk away, old man, he sneered, prompting an internal plea where I fought against the desire to confront him, to protect her. Or what? I challenged, a surge of adrenaline coursing through me. You think you have the right to dictate who she can talk to? Her eyes flicked nervously between us, and in that moment, the world around us grew quiet, thunder rumbling distantly, like an omen waiting to be fulfilled. I just want to help, I asserted, my voice a steady anchor amidst the brewing chaos. But as I watched her face, I realized the truth to my visceral response to this unknown boy, and the echo of that stillness hung heavy. Then the unexpected though eerily familiar text tone chimed from my pocket, a harsh reminder of the thread I was walking. If you care about her, you need to step back. Unraveling this tapestry of fear and uncertainty felt almost insurmountable, especially when both of them redirected their attention back to each other. I took a half-step back, edged with uncertainty, knowing I could be crossing a line I didn't even recognize yet. But the culmination of our emotions reached a fever pitch, and as I opened my mouth to speak again, everything shattered. The girl's voice rang with quiet urgency. Please don't fight. But before she could finish, an electrifying slap resonated through the air, sharp and jarring, ricocheting off the tension. I turned, shocked to see her hand hovering near her face, a fresh bruise appearing under the shadow of the gathering storm. This isn't what I wanted, she murmured, confusion marring the determination in her eyes, leaving me frozen, suddenly terrified at what I had stumbled into, a battle I didn't fully comprehend. The cafe seemed to dim with the intensity of the moment. The slap hung in the air, a tangible symbol of the fracture that had just occurred. Time slowed, and my heart sank as I absorbed the unfolding chaos. I instinctively stepped forward, adrenaline pounding through my veins. What the hell just happened? I demanded, forcing my gaze onto her. The girl's hand trembled near her cheek, and I desperately wanted to reach out, to offer solace, but I hesitated, unsure whether my intervention would further ignite the situation. The young man glared at me, fists clenched. Stay out of it, old man. This is none of your business. Is this how you treat someone you care about? I shot back, my voice thick with anger. Every instinct pulled me closer to her, a primal urge to shelter her from this side of the world that felt so dark and unforgiving. She took a step back, her eyes darting from him to me, her expression a mix of fear and gratitude. No, please just stop, she pleaded again, her voice cracking under the weight of it all. The young man softened for a mere second, confusion flickering across his features. You don't need them, he told her, desperately trying to close the distance that was growing between them. You've got me. I told you I want to make my own decisions, she shouted, the power of her voice resonating. It was as if she were shedding layers of a life that felt suffocating. Her defiance filled me with a strange warmth, a flicker of hope igniting amidst the shadows. But then, just as quickly as that spark appeared, it dimmed. The boy's expression shifted from anger to hurt, as if her words cut deeper than any blow he could deliver. I just want to protect you, Eva, he said, vulnerability slipping into his tone. You don't understand what you're getting yourself into. That name broke through my fog of urgency, and it settled around me like a whispered secret. Eva. I clenched my fists, the sound of it echoing in my mind, unlocking a cascade of questions. Who was she to him? Why did it feel like everything was blending into one complex tapestry of interwoven lives? I'm tired of being treated like I can't make my own choices, Eva said, her eyes aflame. This is my life, and am not going to let you dictate it. With those words, I watched as she stepped firmly away from him. Instinctively, I mirrored her, an easy camaraderie threading between us, though my heart still raced with the terror of this moment. My mind raced, combining curiosities and doubts while contemplating who she truly was. Her gaze flitted toward me, something unspoken passing between us. I could sense the vulnerability beneath her fierce words. Beneath the mask of anger lay a girl desperate to escape the shackles of someone else's rules. "Please help me," she mouthed silently, her plea barely reaching me over the mounting tension. I took the chance. "I can help," I promised, my voice steady and resolute, offering her a small but sincere smile. "We just need to figure this out together." Behind me, the boy's expression darkened again, protective instincts overwhelming his desire for understanding. "You think you can fix her?" he challenged, venom lacing his words. "Fix? No, that's not what I want," I replied, shaking my head. "I just want her to have the chance to make her own choices that don't involve fear or hurt." Eva looked between us, a tempest brewing in her gaze. "You don't understand what he's been through or what I'm facing." A flicker of confusion crossed my mind. "Then help me understand," I urged softly. "I can't aid you without knowing what you're dealing with, but I can listen." She hesitated, debating whether to share her burdens, and for a moment, the young man wavered, though his anger still simmered just beneath the surface. "You don't have to tell him anything," he snarled. "Maybe I do," she whispered, and in that instant, the cafe that had felt so stifling transformed into a fragile sanctuary against the outside noise. In that breath of stillness, an unexpected warmth enveloped me as a reminder of what humanity was capable of in moments of darkness. Suddenly, something within me clicked. Pieces of my own life, my own fears, found resonance in hers. I had walked a similar road of vulnerability, and regardless of our age difference, I sensed a connection I couldn't shake. But feelings of hope were disrupted by a phone buzz emanating from Eva's pocket, carving through this moment of intimacy. She pulled out the phone, her face blanching as she read the message. "Oh no, what is it?" I asked, concern pooling in my gut. Her complexion paled further. "It's from someone else. They're saying I need to meet them tonight, or there will be consequences." My heart raced, the weight of the moment crashing down upon us. "I won't let you go alone," I declared, fear curling in my belly. "Who is it?" As she looked up, tears pooled in her eyes, and the fierce resolve I had witnessed moments before began to crack when she mouthed, "I don't know." Just then, the atmosphere shifted. A figure emerged from the shadows of the cafe, face half hidden beneath a hood. "It's time, Eva," the figure said, voice dripping with authority. My protective instincts kicked in, pushing me forward again, uncertainty swirling in the air. "Who are you? What do you want with her?" The figure paused, gaze cutting between me and Eva with a chilling intensity that stopped all breath in my lungs. "I've come to collect a debt, and if she doesn't come willingly there will be consequences." In that moment, I felt the floor fall beneath me, the reality of it all crashing in waves with alarming tenacity. And just like that, the fog of uncertainty returned, enveloping us in a shroud of impending danger. As Eva's eyes met mine, the silent question hung heavily between us. Would we be able to fight this storm together, or were we merely destined for ruin? The cafe felt like it was shrinking, the air thickening as tension rushed in from every angle. I could sense the weight of Eva's uncertainty wrapping around our small gathering. The figure looming before us, a harbinger of something foul, seemed to drain the warmth from the room. Shadows flickered across his cloak, the dim light catching hints of a figure that promised only discomfort. "Who do you think you are?" I challenged, stepping closer to Eva, my heart drumming a chaotic rhythm in my chest. "Someone with a vested interest in Eva's future," the stranger replied smoothly, a smirk playing on his lips, revealing a layer of arrogance that made my skin crawl. "And a past that's woven tightly with hers. When debts are due, they must be settled. There's no escaping that." Eva stepped back, her breathing quickening. "I don't owe anyone anything." Panic seeped into her voice. "And still you have debts, whether you choose to acknowledge them or not." The figure's eyes glinted with a knowing cruelty that sent shivers racing down my spine. I looked at Eva, desperately trying to convey caution and resolve through my gaze. "Well, get through this," I whispered, wishing to lend her whatever courage I could muster. She needed a fortress against the tides threatening to sweep her away. Her fingers trembled at her sides, and I could see her resolve start to flicker again. "Maybe I can sort this out." "No," I interrupted, my throat suddenly thick with emotion. You're not alone in this. Not anymore. A fleeting smile flickered on her face, deepening the shadows beneath her eyes, and I realized then how much she was clinging to that momentary spark. Yet, just as quickly, doubt flickered through her. I've faced things before, and this, she gestured to the looming figure, this is different. The figure stepped closer, inching between our fragile connection, a malignant presence that threatened to sever our thread of understanding. She can face it, or she can pay the price, he said, his voice low and dripping with malice. I won't let you hurt her, I declared, trying to inject strength into my words. There was something primal within me that wouldn't allow her to slip through my grasp, something that screamed I had to protect her, against all odds. Eva's expression darkened, and I could see the mental struggle churning behind her eyes, wrestling with indecision. If you don't let me go, they will then well stand together, I asserted passionately. They'll do whatever it takes to ensure you are safe. Her eyes softened briefly, reflecting a million unsaid things, an unbreakable bond sprinkled with fear, anger, and an unexpected hope. But the shadowy figure's chuckle shattered that moment. You think your protection means something? You think you can decide the outcome? You're far too naive. My heart sank as he spoke, and the rapid succession of emotions twisted in my chest unwavering, stealing my resolve. In that beat of silence, I made a decision. I could not let fear dictate this moment. What's your price? I said, voice steady, filled with purpose beyond concern for myself. The figure's surprise was palpable, a glint creeping into his eyes. So eager to sacrifice for her, aren't you? Eva's eyes widened, panic overtaking the momentary warmth between us. No! Don't, but it was too late. I could see that the wheels were already turning in his mind. Very well, he said, a smirk curling at the corners of his mouth, the debt will be satisfied, but understand that it's not just you it'll come for. If you fail her, there will be consequences that will reach beyond just your own life. I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of what I had just invited upon myself. What does that even mean? I asked, the air thickening with the implications. It means, he said, leaning in closer, that as long as she is in your charge, her fate intertwines with yours, and if you falter, you'll be forced to pay the penalties. Perhaps even in a way that you cannot bear. The words settled over me like a blanket of dread, and I felt the world tilt on its axis. Every instinct screamed to back down, to pull away, but Eva's trembling figure stood beside me, and the thought of abandoning her felt like a betrayal. I took a steadying breath, aware that I was forging a path through unknown darkness. Fine, I breathed, locking eyes with Eva, trying to infuse her with strength. Then we'll navigate this together. The figure straightened, satisfied, his icy demeanor betraying a smirk that hinted at vindictive satisfaction. Good luck, then. You'll need it. As he melted back into the shadow, leaving us in stunned silence, the cafe's energy shifted again. The weight of his threat loomed, heavy and oppressive, almost palpable in the air. Why would you do that? Eva asked, looking up at me with bewildered eyes piercing through the veil of my bravado. Because you deserve to choose your path. And I won't let anyone dictate it for you, I replied, every ounce of conviction resonating within me. Her expression flickered somewhere between gratitude and fear, an emotional maelstrom that neither of us could fully comprehend. But before I could further reassure her, a sharp ping from her phone sliced through the air again. She glanced down, horror creeping over her face. I have to go. No. Not now. My chest tightened with desperation as uncertainty clawed at the edges of my sanity. I have to if I don't. Her voice trailed off, realization washing over her like ice water. The door swung open suddenly, and a familiar face emerged, joining us, and I felt the stir of hope again. But as it turned out, the newcomer was not the ally I had longed for. Looks like you've chosen a new protector, the girl said with a laugh that sent chills down my spine. And just like that, the disarray grew thicker, shrouding us in an even deeper layer of confusion. Our fragile connection now entwined with more threads of uncertainty. Would we be able to fight this looming darkness together, or was it already too late to escape the debts waiting to be paid? I felt the air in the cafe shift as the newcomer, a tall, striking figure with an air of confidence that clashed starkly with Eva's despair, stepped in. My instinct kicked in, she was trouble. The tantalizing scent of danger wafted through the room along with the cold breeze that swept in behind her. Do you always bring your own shadows? Or is this a special occasion? I shot at her, my irritation simmering beneath the surface. The echo of our harbinger still hung heavy in the air, a reminder of the darkness we faced. Let's not pretend you're not intrigued, she replied, an amused glint in her eye as she leaned casually against the counter, her confidence wearing like armor. I heard that the two of you were making quite the scene. Eva shifted, visibly uncomfortable, her posture betraying her fragility. I don't have time for this, she said, her brows furrowing in pain. You don't understand, oh honey. I understand more than you know, the girl cut her off, the amusement spilling over into a sharper tone. But it's not about you. It's about your protector here, isn't it? What do you want? I interjected, trying to keep the chaos at bay. Why are you even here? She shrugged playfully, flicking a strand of hair over her shoulder. Maybe I want to see how much he's willing to pay for your life, Eva. Because it could be quite a price, and it seems he's already signed himself up for the ride. Stop it! Eva shouted, her voice breaking slightly as the weight of the world pressed down on her once more. She seemed so small, so vulnerable, and I felt a surge of emotion pulse through my veins, protective instincts roaring to the surface. I reached out, about to grasp her hand, when she turned from me, caught in the grip of uncertainty. I have to go, she murmured, her voice barely loud enough to break through the tension. I can't stay here. I must know, please. My plea was desperate as I stepped closer, desperate to mend the rift that had grown between us. We can talk this out. Whatever it is, we'll figure it out together. Her face hardened as she abruptly turned to the insufferable newcomer. You don't get to control my path. Not now, and not ever. The stranger chuckled, a sound that sent chills racing down my spine. You're right. I don't control your path. But I do know where it leads, and it doesn't end with a fairy tale, darling. Is he right? I felt compelled to ask, my voice trembling slightly as dread coiled tight in my gut. Do we even have a choice? Eva's silence at the question pounded in my chest like a war drum. No answer came, only the shadows of uncertainty, creeping higher and higher. I can help you, the girl offered, turning her attention to me now, a predatory smile spreading over her lips. What do you say? You can trade your debts with me instead of this loser. Stop! Eva interjected, her fear unfolding like a wilted flower before us. You don't understand. He's trying to help me, or is he trying to play hero? She thrust back, laughter in her voice, but the intoxicating confidence twisted into something sinister. Who's to say he won't be your biggest regret? My heart sunk as I caught the tiniest inkling of doubt in Eva's eyes. Panic seized me, and I struggled to find the right words. No, listen to me, I said, reaching out for her again, searching her gaze for a glimmer of that warmth from moments ago. I would never regret fighting for you. You're worth every ounce of struggle. If this girl has a solution, then we should hear it and throw caution to the wind? The girl interrupted, shaking her head slowly. Not every string you pull has a happy ending, darling. Then what is your intention? I asked, frustration bubbling over. You offer no solutions but taunt us with threats? You'll have to do better than that. She smiled unfazed, as though my anger amused her. Fine. Perhaps I'll have to show you instead. In one quick motion, she reached into her leather bag and produced a small object, dangling it before us. The glint caught the cafe's dim light, catching Eva's eye instantly as her breath hitched. What is that? I asked, narrowing my eyes as the shadows stretched beyond the table. The air thickened further with unseen tension, and time seemed to halt. Eva's eyes widened, realization pooling in the depths of her gaze. No, you can't be serious. Oh, but I am, the girl drawled, her tone sparkling with malice. This little trinket could help tie up those pesky loose ends of yours. She turned it over in her hand, the cool smile on her face faltering only slightly, a mere hint of the darkness lurking beneath. Just take it, and your problems might be solved. It might even take you beyond the debts and into something beautiful, she said, her eyes glimmering with hidden motives. Don't. Eva's voice broke, the very idea sparking a blaze of fear. You don't understand what that means, exactly, but here's the kicker, either do you. The implications pulled at the very essence of our fragile connection. Eva's body stiffened as if the weight of choice loomed over her like a guillotine. You either accept payment or face the consequences, the girl added, leaning in close, her eyes boring into Eva's. A silence fell that felt deafening. Time stretched unbearably thin. As I glanced around the cafe, I knew we were trapped, our fates intertwined by forces beyond our comprehension. Please, just listen to me, I urged, my insides twisting with fear. You don't have to touch that thing. We can find another way. But Eva's gaze was caught, an internal struggle raging as uncertainty washed over her like a tidal wave. The light in her eyes flickered, hope yielding to desperate contemplation. And all I could do was watch, helpless, holding my breath as the moment hung heavy, like the looming shadows of the debt's ode, threatening to tip the balance of our fragile connection forever. What barrier could I raise against the tremors of fate? Just as it seemed as though she might relent, a sudden realization washed over her face, deeper than any fear. I won't do it, she swallowed hard, her voice as steady as it had ever been. I refused to pay any price that costs my soul. I felt a surge of pride, a momentary light pushing back against the darkness. But it was swiftly eclipsed by the girl's menacing laughter that filled the room like smoke billowing from a forgotten fire. Then brace yourselves for what's coming next. Before I could respond, Eva's phone pinged once more in a rapid series, her face paling at the message that flashed on the screen, a chilling glimpse into the depths of her past. Someone's here, they're coming for me, she whispered, a sudden weight grounding her in place, the fear returning full force. What do we do? I asked, my heart racing with dread, and just like that, the weight of our choices bore down, changing everything as we braced for a storm we couldn't foresee. The cafe was silent except for the faint ticking of the clock on the wall, the sound a metronome of our growing dread. My mind raced, frantically replaying the girl's taunts and Eva's defiance as fear settled deep in my chest. Eva's face, once so filled with hope and warmth, was now shadowed by an unspeakable decision. She didn't need to collapse into despair. I would not accept that. Somehow, I must find a way to shield her from whatever dark force was closing in. Eva, look at me. My voice cut through the heavy silence, an anchor in the storm. We can face this together. Whatever it is, it can't be worse than giving in to her game. She lifted her gaze, the flicker of determination battling against the depths of her uncertainty. But what if it is? I can't risk your life for my mistakes. Your mistakes don't define you, I pressed, inching closer to her, desperate to bridge the distance that felt insurmountable. You are so much more than what's chasing you. We still have a chance. The barista, witnessing our turmoil, averted their gaze, suddenly preoccupied with cleaning the same coffee machine for what felt like the 100th time. It was as though they sensed the impending storm brewing in front of them, and chose not to engage. Suddenly, the door swung open, jarring our fragile moment. A wave of stark afternoon sunlight flooded the cafe, momentarily blinding. Then, from the light, silhouettes stepped in. There were 3 of them, figures cloaked in dark, all too familiar shadows. My heart sank as recognition crashed over me like a frigid wave. They weren't just any strangers. They were remnants of her past, and the fear in Eva's eyes told me all I needed to know about their intent. Run! I shouted, gripping Eva's arm tightly. We need to get out of here! But she didn't move. Her eyes locked onto the newcomers as recognition bloomed in her expression. There was a shifted tremor of fear balanced against something deeper in unrecognized defiance. Perhaps the debts owed were not solely hers. They had come to collect a payment, one which I feared Eva was unprepared to confront. Eva, I urged again as I pulled her closer, my thoughts racing with possibilities. Trust me. We can figure this out after we get you to safety. But the fiery resolve in her darkening eyes steadied me. No. I can't keep running from them. I need to face this. The trio approached with purpose, their eyes glinting with a predatory hunger that sent a bolt of fear through me. Among them, a familiar figure emerged, the leader's icy demeanor unmistakable. Eva, he spoke too smoothly, like honey laced with poison. We've been looking for you. Your debts are not so easily forgotten. Stay back. I interjected, stepping in front of her instinctively. She doesn't owe you anything. The others exchanged smirks, as if my protective instincts were nothing more than a fairy tale echoing in the void. Is that right? The leader drawled, raising an eyebrow. Then perhaps she's more naive than we thought. I felt a wave of warmth and protective rage wash over me. Eva was not naive, she was brave, and she had stood tall against the odds. Stay away from her! I shouted again, my voice rising above the suffocating tension, terrified yet determined to shield her. Yet just as I thought my words resonated, the girl from before, the tangential source of our current turmoil, stepped away from the shadows behind her new companions with a wicked grin curling at the corners of her lips. You don't understand how this game works, she taunted, taking another step forward. You think you can protect her? Those debts will haunt you both, whether it's through payments of the soul or blood. She is already ensnared. The shadows were growing thicker now, curling around us, suffusing the air with dread. I couldn't let her play this game any longer, not with my heart at stake. Stop! I shouted again, my voice carrying an edge of desperation, pleading with the universe for a glimmer of hope. We can break those chains, Eva. Trust in that. But as I turned to her, the spark of hope I'd grasped for faltered. The shadows behind her seemed to stir with a life of their own. The fear I had fought so hard to keep away clung to her like a second skin. Her body was rigid as she turned toward the trio, and for the briefest moment, my heart swelled with an unsettling understanding that maybe this confrontation was something she had been anticipating all along. I know what I have to do, she whispered, her voice wavering yet resolute. Eva, no! I urged, stepping closer, trying to reach her in the midst of her uncertainty. Please don't make this choice. Let me help you. But the door swung open once more, this time not revealing darkness, but a familiar face. My own daughter stood there, her eyes widening as she took in the scene, a mixture of curiosity and confusion marring her youthful features. Dad? She asked, disbelief coloring her tone. The world seemed to halt, the air crackling with implications. The conflict, the choices, and the shadows hung so thick that I could hardly breathe. What had I dragged my daughter into? Would she end up sharing Eva's fate or worse? The momentary calm shifted like a plummeting pendulum, the weight of spilt secrets and unspoken truths looming over us all. As I glanced between Eva, my daughter, and those who sought to claim what they could, I was left grappling for words, desperate to articulate the chaos swirling around us. In that agonizing silence, I felt dread pulsating through me, the edges of our reality fraying, the stakes rising higher than any of us could bear. Would we be able to forge a path through the darkness, or would we find ourselves ensnared in a game we hadn't chosen to play? Eva's expression shifted, her courage intertwined with helplessness, a potent cocktail that had me grasping for the right words. Time hung suspended, each second thrumming with the unseized breaths of anticipation and fear laced through our conversations. How could I shield her when everything within her fought to confront her past? Dad, what's happening? My daughter's voice trembled, the innocence of her age starkly contrasting with the impending storm we faced out. I could see the plea in her eyes, the confusion morphing into a need to understand what was unfolding before her. It broke my heart to think of exposing her to this darker side of life, to a world ruled by debts and desperation. Stay behind me, I hissed to her, my voice raw from restraint. I wanted to melt into the ground and hide her, no, ourselves from the fate that threatened to consume us. Eva, please. But she was already stepping forward, her hand finding her waist in a gesture I recognized from our previous conversations. A subtle cue that she was bracing for battle. It wasn't just her past weighing on her, but the looming certainty that whatever strength bubbled beneath the surface had to be called upon now. The trio before us shifted restlessly, eyes hungrily assessing our weakened state. How quaint, the leader drawled, an amused grin splitting his shadowed face. A family reunion while we conduct business. How very touching. Shut up. I felt a surge of protectiveness awaken as I realized this was more than just a confrontation, it was a reckoning. What do you want from her? The girl who had initiated this chaos stepped forward, her smile growing wider, flashing just enough teeth to make her resemble a predator. It's not just about what we want. It's about what she owes. We're not here to take her, not yet. The games, they come first. Eva's shoulders tightened, a new resolve washing over her. I can't keep running from this. I'll play your game, she blurted, a visceral mixture of bravery and terror painted across her face. No. My voice cracked, desperation clawing at my throat. Eva, don't say that. But she locked eyes with me, her expression weighing heavy in the air. If there's any hope of ending this, my choice is the only one that matters. The air grew thick with unspoken memories and fears that only deepened my agony. I was losing her. From behind my shoulder, I caught a glimpse of my daughter's bewildered expression, a question hovering unspoken on her lips. I could see her mind racing with calculations, and my heart sank at the thought of how I'd failed to protect her from this life. Could I pull Eva back without endangering my little girl? It won't end well, you know. The girl snarled, her voice a sinister whisper that danced around us like smoke. This is a game meant for souls, and only one can prevail. Think carefully about what you're willing to sacrifice. As I searched Eva's face for doubt, for an urge to retreat, I found instead an iron determination emboldening her. It struck deeply, reminding me painfully of the spirit she embodied, the very essence of why I was drawn to her in the first place. And I knew she would go through hell if it meant freeing herself from the darkness tying her down. Fine, I managed, the acceptance crashing into me like a tidal wave. If this is happening, I'm in too. Eva's eyes flickered with both gratitude and a shadow of concern. No, you can't. You don't understand what you're saying. But I do, I countered, locking eyes with her. If you're going to risk everything, then we'll face whatever darkness comes together. I can't let you do this alone. As if to punctuate my declaration, the leader interjected with a cruel sneer, how romantic. But unwise. You have to confront your worst fears when playing this game. Will you both stand strong when you see what lies beneath the surface? I felt the oppressive weight of his words sink into my bones. What lay beneath the surface? The girl's voice cut through the rush of emotion crashing over us. Great, then let's begin. The only question that remains is, who will be the first to play? I glanced toward my daughter, trying to imbue her with reassurance, slowly spilling my own vulnerability, but fear clawed for dominance. I realized then, the true stakes were more than just our lives. We were balancing fragile hearts and newfound hopes, risking everything for one another. With that chilling recognition rippling in my stomach, the trio moved uncomfortably closer, shadows shifting like phantoms, urging our hearts forward into the game we desperately wanted to escape. As they encroached, the ground beneath us quaked, forces unseen warping our reality until everything erupted into chaos, a whirlwind of threats and silence that forced us all to choose our next moves carefully. In that cacophony, everything hinged on one question, one terrifying truth that loomed over us all. Who amongst us would make the ultimate sacrifice? The atmosphere around us shifted, thickening with uncertainty. Each breath I took felt laden with unspoken fears, highlighting the fragility of the moment. Eva's resolve illuminated the darkness clinging to us, yet my heart screamed the warning of impending doom. Let's get this over with, the girl said, twisting her lips into a mocking grin, as if this twisted game meant nothing more than a sport for her amusement. Your first challenge, the leader declared, a gleam of anticipation lighting up his eyes. Truth or dare? Eva steeled herself, swallowing hard. Truth, boring, the girl scoffed, rolling her eyes. But the leader merely nodded, clearly pleased that we adhered to his rules. What is your greatest fear? His voice pierced through the tension, threading uncertainty through the fabric of an already fragile environment. My mind raced. Did she have the courage to expose the darkest corners of her soul? I wanted to reach out to her, to whisper words of comfort or courage, but I remained rooted, a statue of helplessness locked in the uncertainty of her choice. Eva hesitated, a flicker of vulnerability flashing across her face. My greatest fear is being alone. That my past will catch up to me, consuming me without anyone there to help. The leader nodded approvingly, clearly entertained by her honesty, but I felt the blood drain from my face. I wanted to scream that she was not alone, that I would stand alongside her through the storm. The truth weighed heavily in the air, and I feared for the strength of her heart. Painful, isn't it? He murmured, satisfaction gliding through his words like poison. Now, would you like to dare someone? Or are you too afraid? I dare you to show us what you fear most, she challenged, her backbone shining through the cracks of fear. With a laugh that sent chills down my spine, the girl stepped forward, her previous bravado slipping an inch as she tightened her grip on darkness. You'll regret that. The shadows danced and twisted around her, twisting into something grotesque. I felt dread slither through me as the darkness contorted, morphing into distorted glimpses of tragic memories, faces of lost friendships, moments of betrayal, and the agony of abandonment. I clenched my fists, forcing myself to remain strong. But the air turned ice-cold as the phantoms unleashed themselves, whispering Eva's past aloud, forcing her to relive every heartbreak and mistake she had tried to escape. No. I shouted, but my voice drowned beneath the onslaught of emotion that echoed through the void, sinking into the chasm threatening to swallow her. As the memories clawed at her, I rushed to her side, battling unseen chains wrapping around her wrists, struggling to free her from the nightmare. Eva, you're not alone. Fight it! I implored, my voice breaking under the strain. Tears streamed down her face as she trembled under the weight of what she faced. I can't, it's too much. A small hand suddenly slipped into mine, my daughter, determined as ever. Mommy, we're here with you. You can do this. Nothing prepared me for the power of those words. A flicker of hope blossomed in the depths of despair, igniting a fire that pushed against the shadows. Eva straightened, drawing strength from our touch, our connection melding into an unbreakable bond. I can face this. I refuse to let fear dictate who I am. She yelled, her voice steadying, her stance shifting as resolve parried against the darkness. At that moment, the shadows faltered. The grotesque faces began to dissipate, the phantoms fading like mist burned away by the sun. I watched my daughter's eyes widen in awe as her mother reclaimed her light. The girl's expression twisted into fury as the shadows pulled back, unable to withstand Eva's resolute spirit. You think you've won? This is only the beginning. Before we could process the sudden shift in the atmosphere, another challenge sprang from the leader, as though sensing weakness. Your stakes have been raised. One of you must now step into the game willingly. Sacrifice yourself, and I promise the rest can walk away for now. Shock pierced through us like a knife, the weight of his demand pressing down harder than the darkness ever could. My instinct was to scream, to recoil at the thought of losing either of them. But as I caught the flickers of awareness in Eva's eyes, I knew this was where the battle truly lay. I'll do it, she declared, every syllable punctuated by bravado wrapped in fear, reminiscent of someone who stood at the edge of a cliff, determined to leap. No. I shouted, but the demand had seeped into her heart, igniting a fire I could no longer control. You can't. There must be another way. The leader's laughter echoed like a specter haunting us. This is the game you chose. Make your sacrifice, or watch everything you hold dear slip away. Time seemed to twist around us, a cruel mockery of reality, as every heartbeat raced toward uncertainty. Eva's eyes locked onto mine, unyielding but filled with unshed tears. She was stepping into the abyss, armed with love, but I was powerless to stop her. In that moment, everything around us flickered, the shadows thickening, and the stakes higher than ever, as the truth of our hearts weighed down everything we had left. Then her voice broke through the tension. I can't lose you both. I must protect. And with a final grasp of the heart, those words reverberated through our souls, locking us in time, until the facade of safety cracked, and all of us were teetering on the edge of revelation. Who would stand firm? Who would break? Who, by the end of this twisted game, would find themselves sacrificed on the altar of love and fear? As the air around us thickened with anticipation, I felt the ground begin to tremble under the weight of Eva's unwavering resolve. Every heartbeat echoed in my ears like a warning drum, a siren call to bring her back from the edge. But the more I pleaded with my eyes, the deeper she seemed to sink into her own purpose. I won't let you sacrifice yourself for me, I whispered fiercely, my voice trembling against the tide of her determination. We can face this together. I've made my choice too, My heart is tied to yours now. For a fleeting moment, the shadows swirled around us, their dark tendrils bending and twisting, as if anticipating the outcome of this perilous negotiation among the three of us. But that moment passed too quickly, evaporating like mist kissed by the sun, leaving behind only a gnawing sense of despair that settled into the pit of my stomach. Eva's eyes, lit with fear and fierceness, turned toward the girl still lingering behind the leader. I never wanted any of this. If I have to take a step into the shadows to protect those I love, then so be it. Her voice was steadier now, tinged with a fierce desperation that surged in me like an electric current. The girl's eyes danced with malicious glee, savoring the chaos unfurling before her. Such noble sacrifices. But you see, this game isn't entirely about sacrifice. It's about choosing who has the right to bear guilt and shame. Her laughter echoed as if the very walls of the cafe trembled, feeding off our collective fear. I reached out, grasping Eva's wrist in a frantic plea. No! You are not bound by this darkness. We can find another way. But she pulled away gently, the flicker of determination igniting her gaze. This is my fight, Dad. It always has been. Her voice trembled, and tears pooled in her eyes like fragile gems shimmering under the weight of her decision. Fine. I will stand by you, I insisted, my heart racing. I refuse to let you shoulder this. We're a team. No! She cried, cracking under the tension. You don't understand. I can't let the past consume you too. She turned back to the figure standing before us, eyes steeling with resolve. I will take the challenge in my own. The leader grinned, his excitement palpable as he leaned closer. How delightful! The willing sacrifice. I admire your spirit. But be warned, the consequences of your choice will ripple through those you leave behind. Time hung heavy as Eva channeled her resolve. But before I could interject, the girl from earlier laughed, a sound dripping with malice. Remember, even in sacrifice, your choices determine the unfolding darkness. And there it was a moment that would either save us or shatter our fragile connection into irredeemable chaos, all based on a choice wrapped in unspeakable fear and love. Something deeper churned within me, a truth that cleaved through desperation, urging me to act. I will not allow this. I surged forward, my mind racing with the realities of the looming darkness. Whatever game you're playing, I will claim my share. The faces surrounding us twisted with incredulity, the air thickening with the unrelenting weight of our choices. The room pulsed with palpable energy, shadows swirling around us in a foreboding dance that confirmed we were not merely players but also pawns in this intricate dark ballet. Dare to sacrifice for one another then, the leader challenged, eyes glinting as if relishing the mounting tension. But I urge you, understand this, one of you must break beneath that weight. Eva locked eyes with me, fear blending with hope, and I saw a truer connection thrumming with a rhythm deeper than any obstacle we faced. Together, I breathed out, feeling the warmth of that promise solidifying between us. In that fleeting exchange, I felt the strands of emotional anguish tighten around us but also mingle with the potential for redemption. That realization that we were grounded in a choice greater than flesh and blood sent a rush of determination coursing through me. I'll take your place, Eva. I choose to put my life on the line instead, I declared, my heart pounding fiercely as I turned to the figures before us. Every choice leads back to me. I willingly accept the burden meant for her. A ripple of shock passed through the gathered shadows, and silence enveloped us as they processed my audacity. Eva's wide eyes bore into me, a myriad of emotions swelled as she fought the turbulence of gratitude and disbelief. No! She cried, shaken visibly by my intervention. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do, I replied firmly, my resolve quaking against her desperation. You need to understand there's more to love than just sacrifice. The choices we make create ripples, choosing not just destinies, but the essence of who we become. You hold the power to break free from this cycle of pain. The shadows recoiled, swallowing the air between us as something deep shifted in the unraveling of our shared fates. My heart surged with love, with a profound understanding that our bond transcended the very darkness we faced. Your willingness to take her place is admirable, the leader commented, a surprised smile dancing across his lips. But know this: there are always consequences. I met his gaze fearlessly. Whatever it takes, I would face this darkness for her, and for our family. In that moment, I realized, as much as life had molded our individual paths, it was our togetherness and courage and vulnerability that became the strongest antidote against despair. Eva's fingers entwined with mine, a grounding force that ignited a new flame of hope. Then let us stand together. Side by side, she whispered, her defiance radiating like a beacon of light, illuminating the shadows surrounding us. And just like that, the oncoming storm seemed to abate, shifting into a chance for reassessment. Because love had become our currency in this game, our choice shattering the illusion of power. Taking a deep breath, I held firm, knowing that our souls entwined would manifest a force greater than anything that threatened to divide us. As the storm clouds began to disperse, I felt an exhilarating rush of defiance run through us, a declaration that our story wouldn't culminate in darkness, but rather in a rebirth of choice, sacrifice, and deep-rooted love, with newfound strength pulsing through us. The final words of the leader echoed in the air, but they carried no weight. Then step forward and make your choice. As we moved closer together, hands tightly clasped, I found solace in one thought: no matter the outcome, we would no longer emerge as isolated sparks of light facing an abyss, but as fiery spirits, igniting a bond that transcended the many debts life insisted we bear. With my heart thundering and the rush of vibrant hope coursing through us, I declared, of the two paths now before us, we choose love. And in that sacred affirmation, we stepped boldly into the shadows, together knowing that whatever awaited us, we would face it not merely as players, but as a united front, ready to reclaim our fate, conquering darkness with the radiant light of our truths. Together, I whispered again, this time a mantra holding all the significance of our intertwined lives. And as we braced for the revelation of consequences, a simple but profound truth echoed in the depths of my heart. Love, in its purest form, became our salvation. Because even in the darkest of times, as long as hearts dared to beat alongside one another, we would emerge unscathed. Never alone. Always free. And as we conquered the game with sacred bonds unbroken, we stepped away not just as lovers or protectors, but as bearers of light rising triumphantly from the ashes. Together, I whispered, holding on to that mantra as we ventured into our next chapter, where every heartache would lead us home. And in the stillness, amid shadows giving way to dawn, that single thought echoed in the eternity of that moment: together, we are invincible.